Jimmy Kimmel's world just came crashing down. After 22 years of making America laugh every night, his show was suddenly pulled from the air in September 2025. But this wasn't just any regular controversy. ABC suspended him after one monologue went too far. 28 stations refused to air his content. The FCC threatened legal action. Even Donald Trump celebrated his downfall on social media. What Kimmel said that night shocked everyone. But the real heartbreak isn't just about his career. It's about the personal battles he's been fighting behind the scenes that no one saw coming. Jimmy Kimmel was born on November 13, 1967, in Brooklyn, New York. His full name was James Christian Kimmel. He was the oldest of 3 kids. His mother, Joan, was a homemaker with Italian roots. Her grandparents had come to America after a huge earthquake hit Ischia, Naples, in 1883. Jimmy's dad, James John Kimmel, worked at IBM. Their last name used to be Kimmel, which means caraway in German. It's kind of funny, because later in life, Jimmy would become known for adding spice to late-night TV. He grew up in Mill Basin, a working-class Catholic neighborhood in Brooklyn. The apartment was small, and with 5 people in the family, it was always crowded. Jimmy became the protective big brother to Jonathan and Jill. That small apartment taught him how to speak up, how to be funny, and how to keep people entertained just to get a little attention. Every Sunday, Jimmy dressed in white and served as an altar boy at church. He took part in all the rituals and learned discipline and timing. But he was also a bit of a troublemaker. He once admitted that even during confession, he would joke around. The priests had no idea that the boy in front of them would grow up to become one of the most famous comedians in the country. Everything changed in 1976, when Jimmy was just 9. His dad got transferred from IBM to American Express, and the family had to leave Brooklyn and move to Las Vegas. It was a huge shock. Jimmy went from a quiet, church-filled neighborhood to a wild city filled with flashing lights, casinos, and performers. He remembered seeing Liberace buying meat at the grocery store in a hairnet. He once saw Sammy Davis Jr. shopping at a department store. These strange moments gave Jimmy a peek into the world of show business, long before he would ever become part of it. In 2002, Kimmel took another big swing with Crank Yankers. The idea was completely different. The show used real prank phone calls, but instead of showing the people, they used puppets to act it out. Kimmel voiced characters like Elmer Higgins, The Nudge, and again, Carl Malone. The show launched on June 2, 2002 on Comedy Central and got a lot of attention. They pushed the envelope with fake 911 calls and ridiculous jokes that sometimes got close to being too far. The first run ended in 2005, but it came back on MTV2 in February 2007, before finally ending again in March. The show was so well received, it earned 2 Primetime Emmy nominations. Then, in 2019, Kimmel brought it back again. On February 11, 2019, he said Crank Yankers would return under his new production company, Kimmelot. Comedy Central picked it up again, and the new season premiered on May 5, 2021. This proved Kimmel wasn't just a face on TV. He had real producing skills too. Kimmel's biggest gamble came in 2003. On January 26th, right after Super Bowl XT7, Jimmy Kimmel Live aired for the first time. It came on at 12:05 a.m., a late and risky time slot. The debut episode had Snoop Dogg as co-host, George Clooney as the main guest, and Coldplay as the musical act, but it didn't go smoothly. Ted Koppel from Nightline introduced it by calling it "this piece of garbage." The early episodes featured beer drinking, wild audience games, and stuff that made ABC executives nervous. The Hollywood Reporter called the show a disaster and said it felt like it had no direction. They even said it explained why ABC wanted David Letterman so badly. For the first year, the show aired live, hoping to be more current than competitors. Things didn't get better right away. From 2003 to 2004, ratings were awful. Critics hated it. The New Yorker said it had a charisma-free host. The Seattle Post-Intelligencer said it was like a baby had made a mess on the floor. One terrible moment happened on April 23, 2004, when actor Thomas Jane cursed on air and the censors missed it. That forced ABC to stop airing the show live. Salon.com said that one episode ended with Kimmel sadly listing the next night's guests and hoping someone would show up. In the mid-2000s, their wildest project was The Andy Milonakis Show. It ran from 2005 to 2007 on MTV and MTV2. Andy looked like a child, but he was 22. He had a rare hormone condition that kept him looking young. His sketches were so strange and childish, they often shocked viewers. People couldn't believe what they were watching. But Jack Hole also gave us Crank Yankers, The Man Show, and a weird movie called Windy City Heat. These weren't just shows. They were experiments in how far comedy could go. By 2020, Kimmel moved on. He gave production control of Jimmy Kimmel Live to his new company, Kimmelot. That was the end of the Jack Hole era. But just as one chapter was ending, another began. On February 18, 2020, Kimmel went on PBS's show Finding Your Roots. He expected to learn something about his Italian ancestry. What he didn't expect was to find out he was cousins with Martha Stewart. He was so stunned he laughed out loud and said, "You gotta be kidding me." He even joked, "This explains me," then added, "Well, it's great news for me, very bad news for her." Later, the two even appeared together on TV. He gave her a dog-shaped charcuterie board. They laughed about their strange family bond. But not all moments in Kimmel's career were lighthearted. In 2009, Megan Fox was on his show and told a story about something that happened when she was only 15. She said director Michael Bay had her wear a bikini and heels and dance under a waterfall in the movie Bad Boys 2 Heen. Or 2. She was a teenager. Kimmel tried to make a joke about it, but years later, in 2020, the clip resurfaced during the #MeToo movement, and people were furious. The hashtag #CancelKimmel started trending. Kimmel's joke didn't sit right anymore. Fox later said she was never harmed, but the story still showed how much things had changed since that time. In 1994, he got his big break at Crew QFM in Los Angeles. He joined the Kevin and Bean Show as Jimmy the Sports Guy. He was sarcastic and sharp, making fun of athletes in ways no one else did. That's where he met Adam Carolla. Their chemistry was instant. One time, they staged a boxing match between Jimmy and another cast member, and Adam played the trainer. That bit turned into something much bigger. He worked there for 5 years, and while it helped build his career, it also caused big trouble later. He took part in a comedy Christmas album where he did a Snoop Dogg parody. In the song, he used the N-word several times and joked about Santa Claus being a fattened tease in a sleigh, giving shade away. That song stayed under the radar for years until it came back in June 2020 when the country was going through major protests about racism. People were shocked. Even worse, in a 2013 podcast with Adam Carolla, Kimmel admitted he had done this kind of thing many times, including pretending to be black celebrities. This became a problem because in 2018, Kimmel publicly attacked Donald Trump and urged actor Tom Arnold to release a tape of Trump supposedly using the same slur. Critics called Kimmel a hypocrite. In 1997, Kimmel moved to TV and joined Comedy Central's game show Win Ben Stein's Money. Kimmel stayed on the show until 2000, when he left to work full-time on The Man Show. After he left, the show continued with new co-hosts like Nancy Pimentel and later Kimmel's cousin Sal Iacono. During its run, the show won 6 Daytime Emmy Awards, and it gave Kimmel the push he needed to go further in TV. But Kimmel got into trouble again. He made a joke about Michael Jackson that offended a lot of fans. It was his first big hosting controversy and showed how dangerous his edgy humor could be. That moment became a warning sign. From then on, Kimmel had to learn when to push and when to pull back. But the job also opened doors. He kept hosting award shows after that, including several American Music Awards and even the Oscars. That first gig helped define his career, for better and worse. In December 2005, something strange happened at the very end of a late-night talk show. Jimmy Kimmel looked into the camera and said, "Apologies to Matt Damon, we ran out of time." Then the show ended. But Matt Damon wasn't even a guest. He wasn't booked. He wasn't backstage. He wasn't even in the building. Kimmel just made it up. He later admitted he felt the episode was so boring that he wanted to end it with a laugh. He said Matt's name just popped into my head because he was famous enough to sound important. That single sentence turned into one of the longest-running fake feuds in television history. Over the next 15 years, Kimmel repeated that line more than 3,000 times. It became a ritual. Every time they were out of time, Matt Damon was the fake victim. People started asking Damon about it constantly, even though he had never met Kimmel at that point. Damon said, "I started getting asked, 'What's going on between you and Kimmel?' And I'm like, 'I don't know him.'" Then in 2013, everything flipped. Damon hijacked the show. He walked out, taped Kimmel to a chair, and hosted the entire episode himself. He brought on all the guests, including famous stars like Nicole Kidman and Reese Witherspoon, and never once let Kimmel talk. From that point, the feud turned into something much bigger. It wasn't just a joke anymore, it became a show of one-upmanship. Kimmel once called Damon's movies unwatchable. Damon brought Ben Affleck and held his hand like he was his personal bodyguard. The joke was now everywhere. Award shows, charity events, online videos, even their families got involved. Kimmel's wife made jabs. Damon's wife laughed along. What started as a random sentence in 2005 somehow became a nearly 2-decade-long comedy saga. As Jimmy got busier and more focused on work, their marriage suffered. In 2002, after 14 years together, Gina filed for divorce. Even with all the struggles, they managed to raise their kids together. Not long after the divorce, Kimmel started dating comedian Sarah Silverman. They met in 2001 during a roast for Hugh Hefner. She made fun of him in front of everyone. Somehow, that turned into a relationship. They dated from 2002 to 2009. During those years, they made some of the most iconic comedy videos ever, including "I'm Fing Matt Damon" and "I'm Fing Ben Affleck." These went viral before viral was even a thing, but when Sarah moved to New York, the distance was too much. They broke up for good in 2009, though she once saved his life when his appendix burst. She rushed him to the hospital when doctors weren't taking his pain seriously. In 2009, Kimmel met Molly McNerney, a writer on his show. They started dating in October. 3 years later, they got engaged, and by July 2013, they were married. Their daughter Jane was born in 2014. Then their son William, nicknamed Billy, was born in April 2017. But Billy had a life-threatening heart defect. Just 3 days after birth, he needed emergency surgery. He's had 3 open-heart surgeries so far. The last one was in May 2024. Kimmel used his platform to speak out against health policies that didn't protect kids like his. But in September 2025, everything changed. Jimmy Kimmel Live was suspended by ABC after a fiery monologue where Kimmel talked about conservative activist Charlie Kirk's murder. He accused certain groups of using the death for political gain. Next Star Media pulled the show from 28 stations. The FCC even threatened legal action. The ACLU called it censorship. The incident put a huge spotlight on how risky political comedy had become. And that wasn't the only time Kimmel stirred trouble. In February 2024, former Congressman George Santos sued him for $750,000. Kimmel had tricked him into making cameo videos for a segment on the show. In one, Santos unknowingly congratulated someone for cloning a schnauzer named Adolf. It sounds made up, but it happened. The court eventually threw out the case in September 2025, saying Kimmel's use was protected as parody. Then came Trump. On September 17, 2025, Donald Trump celebrated Kimmel's suspension on Truth Social. He wrote, "Great news for America. Kimmel has zero talent." He even called Fallon and Myers total losers. Trump had been feuding with Kimmel for years, and this felt like a victory lap.